Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into Cheating Tales Lab. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know, what part of the world are you watching from right now? Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. Calculated Normalcy. The stench of motor oil permeated Richard's reliable repairs as Hector Richards worked on the transmission of a 2018 Ford F-150. His weathered hands moved with practiced efficiency through the familiar components. The shop's location on Denver's outskirts served his purposes well, nestled between the wealthy neighborhoods of Cherry Creek and the working-class districts of Commerce City. The mix of clientele meant faces came and went without raising suspicion. A sharp clang of metal on concrete echoed through the garage bay. "Damn it," Randy Henson muttered, retrieving the dropped wrench. The young mechanic's face flushed red as he glanced at Hector. "Watch the tools, kid," Hector grunted, not looking up from the transmission. Despite his gruff tone, he'd grown fond of Randy over the past year. The 26-year-old possessed an uncanny eye for detail that set him apart from other mechanics. "Sorry, boss." Randy brushed off the wrench and approached Hector's workstation. "Got that diagnostic report on the Mercedes S-Class. Something weird with the brake rotors." This caught Hector's attention. He wiped his hands on a nearby rag and took the tablet from Randy. "Weird how? See these wear patterns?" Randy pointed to the digital images. "They're inconsistent with normal use. Almost like someone deliberately scored them to create gradual failure." Hector zoomed in on the image, his expression neutral despite the alarm bells ringing in his head. "Good catch. Order new rotors and document everything. I want detailed photos before and after replacement." The heavy steel door to the office swung open, and Bobby strode into the garage. Her silver hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her posture betrayed her military background despite 7 years in civilian life. The former Air Force logistics officer ran the front office with precision that would make her old commanding officers proud. "Hector," she called out, her voice carrying across the space. "Your wife's here." A slight pause. "Mr. Weston's with her again." Hector's fingers tightened imperceptibly on the wrench in his hand. Dominic Weston had become an increasingly common presence over the past 6 months, always with some convenient excuse involving insurance or real estate collaboration with Christina. The click of high heels announced their arrival before Hector saw them. Christina Davies Richards entered first, her designer suit and perfectly styled hair a stark contrast to the grime of the garage. At 35, she commanded attention effortlessly, though lately, her confident stride seemed forced, almost mechanical. Behind her, Dominic Weston followed with his ever-present tablet. His tailored suit probably cost more than most of the tools in the shop, and his smile never wavered, like a mask permanently affixed to his face. "Darling," Christina called out, her voice carrying a slight tremor that most wouldn't notice. "We need to discuss updating your life insurance policy. The shop's been doing so well, and Dominic thinks we should increase the coverage." Hector observed the subtle details, how she stood closer to Dominic than necessary, the way her fingers twisted her wedding ring, the slight flush in her cheeks when Dominic's hand brushed her arm as he pulled up documents on his tablet. "Of course," Hector replied, maintaining his persona of the simple mechanic. He gestured to his oil-stained coveralls. "Let me clean up first. Don't want to mess up your nice clothes." While washing his hands in the grimy bathroom sink, Hector's mind cataloged recent changes in Christina's behavior. The late-night client meetings, the new clothes, the sudden interest in his life insurance policy. 7 years of marriage, and she'd never once questioned their financial arrangements before Dominic Weston entered their lives. "The preliminary numbers look good," Dominic was saying when Hector returned. "With the shop's growth, we can justify tripling the coverage. The monthly premium increase would be minimal." Hector noted how Dominic's eyes never quite focused on him, always sliding past to rest on Christina. "Seems like a lot of money," he said, scratching his head in feigned confusion. "Business is good, but not that good." "Don't worry about the details," Christina interjected quickly. "Dominic knows what he's doing. He's helped so many of my real estate clients with their insurance needs." "I'm sure he has," Hector muttered, signing where indicated. He watched Dominic's manicured hand rest on Christina's lower back as they left, guiding her toward the door. The touch lasted a fraction too long to be professional. Randy appeared at his shoulder, voice low. "Boss, about those brake rotors. There's something else you should see." In the back of the shop, Randy pulled up more detailed images on his tablet. The scoring patterns, they're not random. There's a consistency that suggests whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. Hector studied the images while his mind processed the implications. Someone had deliberately sabotaged a client's vehicle, and his youngest employee had spotted it. Either Randy was more observant than Hector had given him credit for, or he knew exactly what to look for. "Keep this between us for now," Hector instructed. "I want you to handle all diagnostics on incoming vehicles personally. Document anything unusual, no matter how small." The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of oil changes and tune-ups. Walter Rogers, Hector's most experienced mechanic, worked silently on a Jeep Cherokee, stopping occasionally to take phone calls outside. Each time he returned, his eyes would scan the shop before settling back into his work. At closing time, Bobby lingered in the doorway of Hector's office. "Interesting day," she remarked, her tone carefully neutral. "Mr. Weston seems very invested in the shop's success." "So it seems," Hector replied, not looking up from his paperwork. "My old CO used to say that when something seems too good to be true, it usually is." Bobby's words hung in the air. "Have a good night, Hector." After everyone left, Hector remained in his office, reviewing security footage on his hidden monitors. He watched Walter return to the shop an hour after closing, examining vehicles with suspicious thoroughness. He observed Randy taking photos of more than just brake rotors throughout the day. His burner phone vibrated in his pocket, a text from a number he hadn't seen in 7 years. Frank Roy's message was brief but clear. "Ghost from Belgrade plus Crimean wolves hunting. Network compromised. Trust no one." Hector leaned back in his chair, memories of Belgrade flooding back. The mission that went wrong, the colleagues he'd had to eliminate when he discovered their true allegiance. The Crimean wolves had infiltrated deeper than anyone suspected, forcing him to disappear into this carefully constructed life. Now they'd found him, and worse, they'd turned his wife against him. But they'd made a crucial mistake. They assumed he was just another retired operative hiding behind a mundane facade. They didn't understand that everything about Richard's reliable repairs had been designed for this moment, from its location to its employees to the tools that could transform from automotive equipment to weapons in seconds. In his basement workshop, Hector accessed his real security system. Cameras throughout the shop and his home revealed the full scope of his surveillance. He watched footage of Christina meeting Dominic at a cafe, their body language intimate and conspiratorial. He observed Walter's late-night inspections, noting how the mechanic paid special attention to areas where a trained operative might hide weapons or documents. The pieces aligned with brutal clarity. Walter's arrival 2 months before Dominic appeared in their lives. Christina's sudden interest in his life insurance. The sabotaged brake rotors, a test run, perhaps, for his own planned accident. Hector pulled up his private database, cross-referencing Walter's background against known Crimean Wolves operatives. The facial recognition software worked through the night, comparing angles and features against years of accumulated intelligence. By dawn, he had his answer. Walter Rogers was a ghost, a carefully crafted identity with just enough verifiable history to withstand casual scrutiny. But ghosts always left traces, and Hector had spent 7 years preparing for this moment. He activated a series of dormant protocols, sending encrypted messages to contacts who'd been waiting years for his signal. Within hours, surveillance photos began arriving, Dominic meeting with known Russian operatives, Walter receiving packages from diplomatic pouches, Christina entering hotels at precise times that aligned with Dominic's schedule. The trap was closing, but not on him. They thought they were hunting a retired operative, someone who'd grown soft and careless. Instead, they'd stumbled into the lair of a predator who'd spent 7 years sharpening his claws, waiting for this exact moment. Hector smiled as he cleaned his tools, each one designed to serve multiple purposes. The time for maintaining his cover was ending. Soon, they would learn why he'd chosen to hide in plain sight, surrounded by equipment that could be transformed into an arsenal at a moment's notice. The Crimean Wolves were hunting him, but they'd forgotten the most important lesson from Belgrade. Sometimes the prey you're stalking turns out to be the apex predator. And Hector Richards had no intention of showing mercy to those who'd betrayed him. Chapter 2. Ghosts at the Door. The basement workshop hummed with the sound of machinery as Hector disassembled a vintage Harley-Davidson engine. To anyone observing through his carefully placed cameras, he appeared absorbed in his hobby. In reality, his attention was fixed on the bank of monitors concealed behind a false wall panel. Multiple camera feeds showed different angles of his property. The shop's exterior, the main garage, his home's entrances, all under constant surveillance. 7 years of preparation had created a web of security that would make intelligence agencies envious. His burner phone buzzed again. Another message from Frank Roy. Confirmed sighting, Ivan Costa in Denver. Watch your six. Hector's jaw clenched. Ivan Costa's presence changed everything. The man was a ghost, a legendary wetwork specialist who'd earned his reputation by making high-profile targets disappear without a trace. If the Crimean Wolves had brought him in, they weren't just looking to expose Hector. They wanted him eliminated. A movement on one of the monitors caught his attention. Walter Rogers had returned to the shop, though it was well past midnight. Hector switched to the interior cameras, watching as his senior mechanic moved through the darkness with practiced ease. Walter's actions were methodical, professional. He examined specific areas of the shop, places where a trained operative might cache weapons or documents. His movements suggested military training, not the casual familiarity of a career mechanic. Looking in all the wrong places, old friend, Hector muttered, watching Walter pass by several concealed compartments without a second glance. The security system pinged, motion sensors in the back lot activated. 2 figures approached the shop from different directions, using the shadows for cover. Their movements were coordinated, professional, not local criminals looking for an easy score. Hector pulled up thermal imaging on a separate screen. The figures carried weapons, compact submachine guns based on their heat signatures. Military grade, not street weapons. His phone vibrated again. A text from an unknown number. Garage compromised. Exit now. The warning came from one of his dormant contacts, probably triggered by surveillance of the approaching men. But Hector had no intention of running. His fingers flew over a hidden keyboard, activating specific security protocols. The shop's external lights blazed to life, flooding the parking lot with harsh illumination. The armed men scattered for cover, their coordinated approach disrupted by the sudden exposure. Through his cameras, Hector watched Walter's reaction. The mechanic didn't show surprise at the unexpected visitors. Instead, he moved to a specific position in the shop, one that offered clear lines of fire to multiple entrances. Amateur, Hector scoffed. Walter had positioned himself perfectly, if this were a normal building. But Richard's reliable repairs had been designed with multiple layers of defense, and Walter had just trapped himself in a kill box. A series of metallic clicks echoed through the shop as hidden mechanisms activated. Steel shutters slammed down over windows and doors, sealing the building. The ventilation system switched to internal recycling, preventing the introduction of gas agents. Walter's reaction confirmed Hector's suspicions. The mechanic immediately recognized the tactical significance of these security measures. His hand moved to his waistband, drawing a concealed pistol with practiced efficiency. "Boss," Walter called out, his voice steady despite the situation. "We need to talk." Hector activated the shop's internal speaker system. "About Belgrade, Walter? Or should I call you Victor?" The name hit like a physical blow. Walter's composure cracked for just a moment, revealing the trained killer beneath the mechanic's facade. "How long have you known?" Walter's eyes scanned the shadows, trying to locate Hector's position. Long enough to wonder why the Crimean Wolves would send one of their best operators to play mechanic in a small auto shop. Hector's voice echoed from multiple speakers, making it impossible to pinpoint his location. The brake rotor sabotage was sloppy. "You're better than that." Walter's laugh held no humor. "Had to verify your skills somehow. A real mechanic wouldn't have spotted those modifications." "No, they wouldn't," Hector agreed. "Just like a real mechanic wouldn't notice how you field strip engines using military efficiency instead of civilian techniques." Outside, the armed men had regrouped. Their thermal signatures showed them preparing breaching charges for the shop stores. "Your backup's going to be disappointed," Hector commented. Those doors are rated to withstand shape charges. Similar to the ones we used in Kosovo, remember? Walter's expression changed at the mention of Kosovo. That op wasn't in my file. Because it wasn't an official operation. Hector's voice hardened. Just like Belgrade wasn't supposed to exist. Until you and your Crimean Wolves friends decided to play both sides. The first explosion rocked the building. The reinforced doors held, but the sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Walter used the distraction to move, rolling behind a tool cabinet. You know why we're here, Hector, Walter called out. The Belgrade files. Hand them over, and this ends cleanly. Nothing about Belgrade was clean. Hector's voice came from directly behind Walter. The senior mechanic spun, weapon raised, but Hector had already moved. Years of maintaining his cover hadn't dulled his skills. They'd refined them. Every day working on cars had kept his hands strong, his movements precise. Walter fired twice, the shots deafeningly loud in the enclosed space. But Hector wasn't there. He'd already dropped and rolled, coming up with a modified torque wrench in his hand. The tool's true nature became apparent as Hector thumbed a hidden switch. The wrench head detached, connected to the handle by a high-tension cable, an improvised flail that caught Walter's gun hand with bone-crushing force. Walter adapted instantly, dropping the pistol and drawing a knife with his left hand. The blade whispered through the air where Hector's throat had been a second before. Still favoring your left side for close work, Hector noted, deflecting another strike. Some habits never change. Their battle moved through the shop, a deadly dance between two professionals who knew each other's moves. Walter's knife sliced through Hector's sleeve, drawing blood. Hector's makeshift flail cracked against Walter's ribs in return. Another explosion rocked the building. The breaching team was getting desperate, trying different entry points. But Hector had designed this shop as a fortress, each apparent weakness concealing a deadly surprise. They won't get in, Hector said, circling his opponent, just like you won't get out. Not until we finish what started in Belgrade. Walter's eyes narrowed. Belgrade was necessary. The intelligence networks were compromised. We did what had to be done. You murdered loyal agents to cover your tracks, Hector snarled. His next attack drove Walter back against a workbench. Used their deaths to hide the wolves' infiltration. And you killed 3 of your own team when you found out, Walter countered, blood staining his teeth. Don't pretend your hands are clean. The reminder of that betrayal fueled Hector's next strike. The flail caught Walter's knee, shattering the joint. The senior mechanic went down hard but managed to throw his knife with deadly accuracy. Hector twisted, the blade slicing along his ribs instead of finding his heart. He absorbed the pain, using it to fuel his focus. In one fluid motion, he closed the distance between them, his fist connecting with Walter's jaw with crushing force. The Belgrade files aren't here, Hector said, standing over his fallen opponent. They never were. But you've helped me confirm something far more valuable. A final explosion rattled the windows. The breaching team had given up on the doors and was attempting to cut through the roof. They'd find that equally futile. Your team out there, Hector continued, they're not just here for the files, are they? This is about Christina and Dominic's insurance scam. Walter spat blood onto the concrete floor. You don't know anything. I know enough. Hector's voice was cold. I know my wife's been meeting your friend Dominic at the Golden Crown Hotel every Tuesday. I know about the offshore accounts in Dubai. And now I know the Crimean Wolves are involved. Before Walter could respond, Hector's phone vibrated. A text from Randy. Police scanner shows multiple units responding to reports of explosions. 3 minutes. Hector smiled without warmth. Your backup's about to have company. But don't worry, by the time they get here, there won't be any evidence of their presence. Or yours. Walter's eyes widened as Hector reached for a nearby tool chest. You're not going to kill me. You need me alive to find out what the wolves are planning. No, Hector replied, pulling out what appeared to be a simple socket wrench. I already know what they're planning. What I need is to send them a message. The wrench hissed as Hector twisted its handle, releasing a fine mist into the air. Walter recognized the implications too late. His eyes rolled back as the fast-acting sedative took effect. By the time police arrived, they found nothing but an empty shop with a malfunctioning security system. Walter Rogers was gone, along with any evidence of the night's events. The only sign of disturbance was a small bloodstain on the floor, one that would prove impossible to match to any DNA database. Chapter 3. The Web Titans. The Wednesday afternoon sun beat down on Richard's reliable repairs as Hector closed the shop for inventory. The closed sign provided perfect cover for what he really intended to do: analyze the intelligence he'd gathered over the past week. His enhanced security systems had paid dividends beyond his expectations. The cameras hidden throughout his property had captured far more than just Walter's nocturnal activities. They'd recorded dozens of supposedly private conversations, including ones that made his blood run cold. In his basement command center, Hector reviewed the footage again. Christina and Dominic, standing too close in the shop's parking lot, their voices picked up by directional microphones. "Are you sure he doesn't suspect anything?" Dominic's hand rested possessively on Christina's waist. "Hector's completely clueless," she replied, leaning into his touch. "He trusts me completely. That's what makes this perfect." Another clip, this one from 3 days ago, caught by the miniature camera in Christina's car. A gift he'd given her last Christmas, its true purpose never suspected. "The Russians are getting impatient," Dominic said, his accent slipping slightly. "They want confirmation that the shop isn't a front for his operations." "Walter's checked everything," Christina assured him. "The basement workshop is just for his motorcycle hobby. No weapons, no evidence. Nothing that could link him to his past." Hector's jaw clenched as he watched his wife of 7 years conspire with his enemies. The betrayal ran deeper than mere infidelity. She'd become an active participant in planning his murder. His phone buzzed, a secured message from one of his reactivated contacts. Dominic Weston's real identity confirmed. Former GRU operative, now Crimean Wolves. Specialized in compromising targets through family members. 3 previous successful operations using similar insurance fraud scheme. The pieces clicked together with brutal finality. Dominic hadn't chosen Christina randomly. The Wolves had identified Hector's location months ago and sent their most skilled manipulator to turn his wife against him. An alert flashed on one of his monitors, someone accessing the shop's computer system remotely. Hector traced the intrusion to a familiar IP address. Randy Henson, attempting to breach the shop's digital defenses from his apartment across town. Instead of blocking the attempt, Hector allowed limited access. He watched as Randy navigated through the system with surprising expertise, focusing on financial records and client databases. "Interesting skills for a mechanic," Hector muttered, recording the intrusion pattern. Either Randy was another plant, or there was more to his young employee than met the eye. The next surveillance clip made him pause. Christina in her real estate office after hours, alone with Darlene Hastings, her closest friend and fellow agent. "Once the Russian hitmen take care of him, the insurance money is all ours," Christina said, her voice trembling with a mix of excitement and fear. "They're already watching his shop." Darlene's response was cool, professional. "And you're sure Walter confirmed the basement workshop is clean? No weapons or evidence that could complicate things." "He checked thoroughly. Hector will be completely helpless when they come for him." Hector leaned back, processing the new information. Darlene's involvement suggested the conspiracy extended beyond just Dominic and the Wolves. How many other seemingly innocent people in their lives were part of this web? His security system pinged again. Someone had just entered the shop using Walter's code, a code that should have been deactivated days ago. Switching to live camera feeds, Hector watched Randy move through the darkened building with purpose, heading straight for Walter's workstation. The young mechanic's movements were precise, professional. He accessed a hidden compartment in Walter's toolbox with practiced ease, retrieving a small package. Hector zoomed in on the surveillance feed. The package contained what appeared to be surveillance photos, himself entering and leaving various locations over the past month. But more interesting was what Randy did next. Instead of pocketing the photos, Randy pulled out his phone and began documenting them, his fingers flying over the screen as he sent the images somewhere. A new message appeared on Hector's secure phone. "Package recovered from Walter's cache. Sending proof of surveillance. They're closer than we thought. F." A cold smile crossed Hector's face. So that's who Randy really was. Frank Roy's eyes and ears planted in the shop to watch over him. The kid's attention to detail hadn't been luck after all. The web of deception and counter-deception grew more complex by the hour. His wife and her friend plotting his death. Walter working for the Crimean Wolves. Randy reporting to his old handler. And somewhere out there, Russian hitmen preparing to strike. But they all shared one critical misconception. They believed the basement workshop was just a hobby space, that Hector had grown soft and careless in his retirement. None of them knew about the false wall that concealed his real command center, or that every tool in the shop had been modified for lethal efficiency. Let them think him helpless. Let them believe their plan was proceeding perfectly. Hector Richards hadn't survived Belgrade by being predictable. When the time came, they'd learn why the most dangerous predator was the one you never saw coming. Behind the false wall of his workshop, surrounded by weapons disguised as tools and monitors, showing every angle of his compromised life, Hector began preparations for what was to come. The Crimean Wolves thought they were springing a trap. Instead, they'd walked into one 7 years in the making. The real question wasn't whether he'd survive their attack. The question was how many of them would survive his response. Chapter 4. Pieces in Motion. Lucia Kinney stared at her encrypted phone, reading the message she'd waited 7 years to receive. 3 words that would change everything. Belgrade files compromised. In her corner office at Vertex Analytics, she moved with practiced efficiency, initiating dormant protocols. Within minutes, her systems accessed sealed databases and buried files, searching for one name, Dominic Weston. The results painted a disturbing picture. Damn, she muttered, cross-referencing data points. Dominic Weston wasn't just connected to the Crimean Wolves. He was Dmitry Volkov, their master manipulator. Her phone rang. Hector, she answered, not bothering with pleasantries. Volkov's been busy. 3 operations in the past year alone. Milwaukee, Phoenix, San Diego. Same pattern. He compromises the spouse, arranges an accident, collects the insurance. Send me everything. Hector's voice was hard, emotionless. Already done. But there's more. Lucia pulled up another file. He's not working alone. Each operation involved local assets. In Denver, I've identified unusual financial transfers between his insurance agency and several real estate firms. Darlene Hastings. You knew? Suspected. My wife's friend. Too convenient. Lucia's fingers flew over her keyboard. I'll dig deeper into her connections. But Hector, these operations, they're not just about eliminating targets. They're building something. Each accident creates a business opportunity, insurance payouts, property sales, new investments. The Wolves are establishing a legitimate network. Using grieving spouses as fronts, Hector's tone could have frozen fire. Clean, profitable, and nearly impossible to trace. There's something else. Lucia hesitated. Walter Rogers. A ghost. I know. Not just any ghost. His facial recognition matched a Wolves operative from Belgrade. Victor Costa. The line went silent. Lucia could almost feel the temperature drop through the phone. Ivan's brother. Hector finally said. Yes. The one who escaped when I eliminated the compromised team members. Hector's voice held no emotion. How long has he been watching me? Records suggest he established his cover identity 2 years ago. Started building a background as a mechanic in Texas, worked his way up. Very thorough, patient, professional. A pause. Like his brother, Hector. Lucia chose her words carefully. If Victor's involved, Ivan won't be far behind. I need you to keep digging. Find me everything on Volkov's network. Money trails, properties, shell companies. And Lucia? Watch your back. If they found me, they might know about other support assets, she finished. Already taken precautions. My security team's been doubled, and I'm implementing Protocol 7. Good. I'll contact you through the usual channels. After hanging up, Lucia activated her final safeguard, a dead man's switch that would release specific files to multiple agencies if she missed her check-in. The Crimean Wolves had played this game too long, destroying lives and building their empire on the ashes. Across town, Bobby Ware sat in her modest apartment, reviewing her notes on Walter Rogers. 23 pages of observations, discrepancies, and gut feelings she'd documented over months. Military experience felt wrong, she muttered, underlining a passage. His knowledge was textbook perfect, but lacked the informal shorthand real veterans used. She'd tested him subtly, dropping references to bases and operations, watching him hesitate microseconds too long before responding. Her phone buzzed. A text from Hector. Need your eyes. Watch the shop tonight. Bobby smiled grimly. Finally. She'd known from day one that Richard's Reliable Repairs wasn't just a repair shop. Her time in Air Force logistics had taught her to spot covers and safe houses. But she'd also learned when to look the other way, and which secrets were better left unspoken. She pulled out her binoculars and settled in for a long night. From her apartment's vantage point, she had a clear view of the shop's back entrance. At midnight, movement caught her attention. Walter's familiar figure approached the shop, his movements different from his daytime persona. Fluid, professional, alert. Bobby documented everything in precise detail. Entry time, tools carried, patterns of movement. When he left 2 hours later, she noted how he swept the area for surveillance before departing. Amateur, she scoffed. He'd checked everywhere except up. Her report to Hector was succinct. Subject displays Level 3 tactical awareness. Missed elevated positions and standard counter-surveillance protocols. Suggests GRU training, not Spetsnaz. Meanwhile, Randy Henson crouched behind a dumpster, photographing Walter's phone screen as the older mechanic made his nightly calls. The zoom lens captured strings of numbers, account details, timestamps, coordinates. Randy transmitted the images through a secure channel to his father. Frank Roy had positioned his son perfectly, using his genuine mechanical aptitude as cover for a deeper mission, protecting the man who'd saved Frank's life in Belgrade. The pieces were moving, the players positioning themselves for what was to come. None of them knew they were playing exactly the role Hector had designed for them, each one a carefully placed sensor in his web of surveillance. In his command center, Hector watched it all unfold. Lucia's intelligence, Bobby's observations, Randy's photos, each piece adding to the puzzle. The Crimean Wolves thought they were closing in on a retired operative. Instead, they'd walked into the lair of a predator who'd spent 7 years sharpening his claws. His phone buzzed with another message from Lucia. Found something. Volkov's meeting someone tonight. Sending coordinates. Hector checked his weapons, each one disguised as a common tool, ready to transform from innocent to lethal in seconds. Time to remind the Wolves why they'd feared him in Belgrade. Chapter 5. Countermoves. The Friday evening rain didn't deter the two men who entered Richard's Reliable Repairs just before closing. Their coveralls were clean, too clean for actual mechanics, and their boots showed no signs of workplace wear. Car trouble? Hector asked from behind his workbench, noting how they positioned themselves, one by the door, one moving toward the center of the shop. Professional spacing for a two-man hit team. Transmission issues, the first man said, consulting a notepad. Been making strange noises. I'm Alberto Wells. This is Neil Graves. Hector recognized Neil instantly. They'd crossed paths in Kosovo during an operation that officially never happened. The scar on Neil's neck, usually hidden by his collar, was Hector's work. Pop the hood, Hector said, playing his role. Let's take a look. Alberto moved toward the shop's back wall, apparently examining tools but actually blocking the rear exit. Neil approached the fictional vehicle, his right hand staying close to his jacket. Kosovo was humid this time of year, Hector remarked casually, selecting a wrench from his bench. Neil's reaction was instant. His hand went for his weapon, but Hector had already moved, the wrench in his hand revealing its true nature as its head detached on a reinforced cable. The makeshift flail caught Neil's gun hand, shattering bones. Alberto rushed forward, combat knife appearing in his grip, but Hector had designed his shop for exactly this scenario. A hidden pedal under the workbench triggered pneumatic rams in the floor. Tools and equipment flew across the room, disrupting Alberto's charge. The knife meant for Hector's throat found its owners instead. Neil tried to recover, switching his gun to his left hand, but Hector was already inside his guard. The fight was brutal, efficient. No wasted movement, no hesitation. When Neil's head hit the concrete, Hector made sure he survived. Dead men couldn't answer questions. Let's talk about the Crimean wolves, Hector said, applying precise pressure to Neil's shattered hand, and why they're really here. Neil's defiance lasted exactly 4 minutes. Not just you, he gasped between screams. All of you. Everyone from Belgrade. They're hunting you all. Why now? After 7 years? The files, they found. Evidence of the original infiltration. Names, dates, accounts. Everything. Hector increased the pressure. Where? Safe house in Cherry Creek. High-end condo. Registered to West Peak Insurance. Dominic's company. Another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Neil didn't survive the questioning. His heart gave out from the stress. A shame, but Hector had learned what he needed. His phone buzzed, Lucia calling. Got something, she said without preamble. Traced Volkov's pattern. He's done this before. 3 cities, 3 dead operatives. Each time, he used the same setup. Seduced the spouse, arranged an accident, used the insurance payout to establish new fronts for the wolves. Efficient, Hector noted, already planning countermoves. The grieving spouse inherits a business that's actually a wolves operation. There's more. Found a pattern of transfers between Volkov's agency and an account in Dubai. The account holder? Darlene Hastings, Christina's friend, and apparently the wolves' financial manager for the region. She's been moving money through real estate transactions, using property sales to launder funds. Hector's mind raced through implications. Send me everything on the Dubai account. And Lucia? Thank you. Just don't die, she replied. I've got 7 years invested in keeping your exit strategy viable. After disconnecting, Hector surveyed his shop. 2 bodies to dispose of, evidence to clean up, and a message to send. The wolves needed to understand they weren't hunting prey. They were facing a predator who'd outgrown their training. He activated his cleanup protocols. Within hours, Alberto's body would be discovered in a drug deal gone wrong across town. Neil would simply disappear. Another ghost in a business that created them regularly. His security system pinged. Randy's surveillance photos arriving. The young mechanic had managed to access Walter's phone, revealing texts that confirmed the larger conspiracy. Boss, Randy's message read, Walter's been coordinating with someone named Ivan. Meeting scheduled for tomorrow. Ivan Costa. The last piece of the puzzle fell into place. The brother of the man who died in Belgrade was coming to finish what he'd started. Let him come. Hector had spent 7 years building this fortress, designing every tool and fixture to serve dual purposes. The wolves thought they were closing in for the kill. Instead, they were walking into a trap designed by a man who'd learned from their own playbook. His phone buzzed again. A text from Christina, working late tonight. Don't wait up. Hector checked his surveillance feeds. His wife was indeed working late, meeting Dominic in his office, no doubt planning the final details of his accident. Let them plan. Let them think they had the upper hand. Soon they'd learn why the most dangerous predator was the one who waited patiently for the perfect moment to strike. Chapter 6. The Turn. Hector's counterattack began with a series of anonymous tips to Denver PD's Financial Crimes Unit. Evidence of money laundering through Dominic's insurance agency appeared in their secure servers, wire transfers, falsified claims, patterns that any competent investigator would recognize. Similar evidence implicated Darlene's real estate transactions. Bank records showed suspicious patterns of cash deposits just under reporting thresholds. Property sales at inflated prices to shell companies traced back to Eastern European investors. Within hours, both businesses faced sudden audits. Hector watched through his surveillance network as regulatory officials descended on Dominic's office. This is ridiculous, Dominic blustered, his accent slipping under stress. Our records are perfect. Perhaps, the lead investigator replied, but we'll need to review everything. All files, all transactions, all client records. Hector's cameras caught Dominic's subtle tell, a twitch in his left eye that betrayed real fear. The man wasn't worried about the audit itself. He was worried about what else they might find. Meanwhile, Randy proved his worth beyond expectation. The young mechanic's lunch break involved accessing Walter's private communications using skills no technical school would teach. Got something, Randy reported via secure channel. Walter's been coordinating with multiple cells. The wolves aren't just eliminating old enemies, They're establishing control points across the country. Show me, Hector commanded. The data Randy uncovered revealed an ambitious operation. Each eliminated operative created an opportunity. Grieving spouses inherited businesses that became fronts for Wolves' activities. Insurance agencies, real estate firms, import-export companies, all legitimate on the surface, all connecting back to accounts in Dubai. They're building an infrastructure, Hector realized, using our deaths to finance their expansion, but the operation's sophistication carried risk. More moving parts meant more potential points of failure. More connections meant more possibilities for exposure. Hector's next move targeted those vulnerabilities. Anonymous tips to specific journalists about irregularities in recent insurance claims. Whispered suggestions about real estate fraud to ambitious prosecutors. Small pressures applied precisely where they do the most damage. The pressure produced unexpected results. Christina, reviewing files in Darlene's office after hours, discovered something she wasn't meant to see: photos documenting previous accidents arranged for other targets. The images showed the truth behind Dominic's operation in brutal detail. Hector watched through security cameras as his wife's world unraveled. The horror on her face as she realized what she'd been drawn into. The trembling hands as she tried to copy the files. Then Dominic appeared, his charming mask finally dropping. The cameras caught everything: his threats, his revelations about the syndicate's true nature, the moment he made it clear she was trapped. "You think you can just walk away?" Dominic's voice was cold through the directional microphones. "You're part of this now. The money you've moved, the documents you've signed. You're implicated in everything." "I never agreed to murder," Christina protested. "You agreed the moment you let me into your bed," Dominic sneered. "Did you think this was about love? About escaping your boring life with a simple mechanic? You were chosen, groomed, positioned exactly where we needed you." The cameras caught her realization. How completely she'd been manipulated, how thoroughly she'd been compromised. Her collapse into a chair as Dominic detailed exactly how deep she was buried. The insurance policies, the property transfers, the offshore accounts. Your signatures are on everything. If we go down, you go down. If you run, you'll be found. If you talk. He let the threat hang unfinished. Hector watched it all, his expression unchanging. Part of him wanted to intervene, to burst in and end Dominic's threats permanently. But that would spoil the larger operation. Sometimes the most effective weapon was truth, revealed at precisely the right moment. His phone buzzed. Randy again. "Walter's making his move. Found plans on his phone. He's going to plant evidence suggesting you're running drugs through the shop." "Perfect. Let Walter play his hand." The trap was almost ready. Another message, this one from Lucia. "Ivan Costa confirmed in Denver. Three-man team with him. They're not here for surveillance." The endgame was approaching. His enemies were committing themselves, abandoning caution for speed. They thought they had him cornered, isolated, vulnerable. They'd forgotten the first rule of hunting predators. When the prey seems easiest to catch, you're probably being led into a trap. Hector began his final preparations. Each tool in his shop had been designed for this moment. Each security system calibrated to turn his business into a killing ground. The Crimean wolves thought they were closing in for the kill. Instead, they were about to learn why some predators let their prey get close before striking. His phone buzzed one final time. A message from Frank Roy. "Assets in position. Contingencies ready. Good hunting." Hector allowed himself a cold smile. Time to remind everyone why the most dangerous operative wasn't the one who struck first, but the one who struck last. Chapter 7. Truth and Consequences. The news broadcast flickered across Denver's morning shows. Breaking news. Local insurance executive linked to international crime syndicate. The report detailed Dominic Weston's past identities, complete with surveillance photos showing him meeting known Russian operatives. In his command center, Hector watched the dominoes fall. Christina's phone buzzed constantly with messages from concerned clients and friends. She couldn't be eliminated quietly now. Too many people asking questions, too much attention. "Smart move," Randy said, monitoring social media reactions. "They can't risk touching her with this much publicity." "That's only phase 1, Hector replied, checking his security feeds. "Walter will make his move soon." He knows his cover's compromised. The prediction proved accurate within hours. Walter arrived for his shift, carrying a leather tool bag that didn't match his usual equipment. The shop scanners detected the contents instantly, drugs and related paraphernalia, carefully selected to suggest a long-running distribution operation. He's heading for the storage room, Randy reported from his workstation. That's where we keep the shipping manifests. Perfect. Hector pulled up the shop's security controls. Let's show him what happens to people who betray my trust. Walter made it 3 steps into the storage room before the trap activated. Hidden panels slid into place, sealing exits. The ventilation system reversed, creating negative pressure. Any evidence he tried to plant would stay contained, along with him. Boss. Walter's shout carried through the cameras. Doors jammed. Is it? Hector's voice came through the room's speakers. Or maybe it's working exactly as designed. Walter's demeanor changed instantly. The friendly mechanic persona vanished, replaced by cold professionalism. He drew a weapon from his tool bag, scanning corners for threats. You know who I am, Walter said, his accent shifting slightly. What I represent. I know exactly who you are, Victor Costa, brother of Ivan, last survivor of the Belgrade team. Walter, Victor, stiffened at his real name. Then you know why I'm here. Revenge for your brother? Hector's tone was mocking. Or is it something else? The files, perhaps? The ones proving how deep the Wolves' infiltration went? Those files died in Belgrade, did they? Or did I keep insurance? Your brother made that mistake, assuming I'd destroy evidence that valuable. Victor's response was to fire 3 precise shots at different speakers. The bullets sparked off reinforced covers, designed specifically for this scenario. Amateur, Hector chided. You're in my house now. This whole shop is my weapon. Hidden panels in the walls slid open, revealing arrays of LED lights. They strobed in complex patterns, disorienting but not random. Victor recognized the technique too late, neural disruption sequences designed to induce vertigo and confusion. The drugs were sloppy. Hector continued as Victor struggled to maintain his balance. You're better than that. But then, you're not really here to frame me, are you? This was just to get inside, to confirm the workshop's location. Go to hell, Victor spat, fighting the strobing effects. You first. Gas hissed from concealed vents, not lethal, but specially formulated to enhance the light's disorienting effects. Victor tried to resist his training, but decades of conditioning worked against him. His body responded automatically to the neural disruption, leaving him vulnerable. The door opened. Hector entered wearing a filtered mask, moving with deadly purpose. Victor managed 2 wild shots before Hector closed the distance. The fight was brief but brutal. Victor's combat skills were impressive, but Hector had designed this room for close-quarters battle. Each piece of equipment, each stored part, had been positioned to provide tactical advantages to someone who knew their true purpose. Ivan's coming, Victor gasped as Hector pinned him. He'll finish what? I'm counting on it. Hector's fist ended the conversation. When Victor regained consciousness, he found himself secured to a chair, facing a video camera. Now then, Hector said, checking restraints, let's discuss the Wolves' real operation. The one involving compromised spouses and insurance fraud across multiple cities. I won't talk. You already have. Hector held up Victor's phone. While you were unconscious, Randy accessed your communications. We know about the network you're building, using grieving spouses to establish legitimate fronts. Quite clever, actually. Victor's eyes widened slightly, the first crack in his professional mask. But that's not the interesting part, Hector continued. The interesting part is how many of those operations involved Darlene Hastings managing the finances. Almost like she was more than just Christina's friend. You don't understand what you're dealing with. No, Victor. You don't understand. Belgrade wasn't just about discovering the Wolves' infiltration. It was about building a network to destroy them. 7 years of preparation, waiting for you to make exactly this move. A new voice joined the conversation. He's right, Uncle Victor. Randy stepped into view, his young face hard with controlled anger. Remember Sarah Roy? Frank's wife. Victor's confusion lasted only a second. Frank's boy. Of course. He always was sentimental. The woman your people killed was my mother. Randy's voice could have frozen fire. Dad put me here to watch over Hector, but I had my own reasons for wanting the wolves exposed. Family, Victor sneered. Always a weakness. No, Hector corrected. Family is what makes us dangerous. Your brother's coming for revenge? Fine. But remember, I trained Ivan. Everything he knows about killing, about tradecraft, about survival, he learned from me. The interrogation lasted hours. By the end, they had confirmation of everything. The larger conspiracy, the financial network, the identities of compromised operatives in other cities. Just as valuable was what Victor didn't know. He had no idea about Bobby's true role, or the extent of Hector's preparations. The wolves thought they were dealing with a retired operative. They'd never realized he'd spent 7 years building an army. Chapter 8, The Last Stand. The attack came at midnight. 3 teams, 12 operators total, approaching the shop from different angles. Professional, coordinated, exactly as Hector had planned. Through his command center's monitors, he watched Ivan Costa personally lead the assault. His former student had aged well, moving with the same lethal grace Hector had taught him years ago. Teams in position, Randy reported from his station. Bobby's handled the police response. Any calls will be diverted for at least 30 minutes. Good. Hector checked his weapons, each disguised as a common tool, each loaded and ready. You know what to do. Randy nodded grimly. Christina's location is secured. My team will make sure the cleanup crew never reaches her. Remember, no witnesses. The wolves die tonight, all of them. The first explosion hit the shop's front entrance, a tactical breach charge designed to overwhelm security systems. In response, Hector's defenses activated automatically. Steel shutters dropped over windows, reinforced doors sealed, and the entire building went into lockdown. They're inside, Randy announced unnecessarily as thermal imaging showed heat signatures spreading through the shop, moving in standard search pattern. Time to remind them why they feared me. Hector moved to his primary control station. Execute pattern Sierra. The shop's lights died, plunging the interior into total darkness. The attackers activated night vision gear, exactly as expected. Moments later, strobes hidden throughout the building pulsed in calculated patterns, turning their own equipment against them. Through his cameras, Hector watched the first team stumble, their enhanced vision working against them. His counterattack was swift and merciless. Remote weapons activated, targeting disoriented operators with brutal efficiency. Second team breaching through the roof, Randy reported. Let them. Hector's smile held no warmth. That access point is a kill box. The roof team learned this too late. Their rappelling lines triggered secondary systems, sophisticated machines designed to look like normal shop equipment. The resulting carnage was brief but absolute. Ivan's team proved more cautious, more professional. They avoided obvious routes, using thermal imaging to detect traps. But Hector had trained their leader. He knew exactly how Ivan would think. Boss, Randy's voice held urgency. Incoming call from Christina. Put her through. Hector. Christina's voice shook with fear. Dominic, he's here. He says he knows about the news leak. He's going to... The line went dead. Location? Hector demanded. Signal traced to Darlene's office. Randy's fingers flew over his keyboard. Team 2 is 3 minutes out. No time. Maintain containment here. I'll handle it. But Ivan will follow me. That's the point. Hector activated his shop's final protocols. Gas flooded certain sections, herding Ivan's remaining team towards specific corridors. Each path led to carefully prepared ambush points, where automated systems would thin their numbers. Sir, Bobby's voice came through a secure channel. Police diversion won't hold much longer. 10 minutes maximum. Enough time. Keep the perimeter secure. Hector moved through his shop like a ghost, using passages and routes that appeared on no blueprints. Each step triggered preparations for what would follow, setting up the endgame he'd planned for 7 years. Ivan's voice carried through the darkness. I know you can hear me, teacher. You taught me too well to miss the signs. All of this, the traps, the ambushes, it's meant to draw me in. To make this personal. Everything's personal, Hector replied through hidden speakers. Isn't that what I taught you? You taught me many things, like how to identify true motives. This isn't about the wolves or their network. This is about Belgrade, about choices made, choices your brother forced when he betrayed us. Betrayal? Ivan's laugh was bitter. We discovered corruption at the highest levels. NATO, CIA, MI6, all compromised. Victor tried to show you proof. Instead, you killed our team and buried the evidence. Wrong. Hector moved silently through another hidden passage. I killed them because they were the corruption. The wolves hadn't just infiltrated intelligence agencies. They'd turned our own team, your brother included. The final confrontation unfolded in Hector's secret workshop. Ivan breached the false wall, expecting to find his former mentor vulnerable. Instead, he found himself in a space designed specifically for this moment. Tools that transformed into weapons lined the walls. Motorcycle parts concealed automated defense systems. Each workbench provided tactical cover while hiding deadly surprises. Still hiding behind machines? Ivan taunted, moving with professional caution. No. Hector stepped into view. Just making sure we end this properly. The battle that followed became legendary in certain circles. Teacher versus student, each knowing the other's moves, each having spent years preparing for this moment. Ivan's youth and speed matched against Hector's experience and preparation. Blood flowed as blades found flesh. Bones cracked under precise strikes. Each man landed hits that would have killed lesser opponents. You taught me everything I know. Ivan spat through bloodied teeth as they grappled. No, Hector replied, his grip tightening. I taught you everything you could understand. There's a difference. The end came not with a killing blow, but with a simple click. Ivan's stance shifted slightly, triggering a pressure plate he'd missed. Hidden mechanisms activated, and the student's last lesson began. Chapter 9. New Foundations. The aftermath unfolded over weeks. Evidence collected from Walter and Dominic exposed the entire Crimean Wolves network. Bank records, communication logs, surveillance photos, everything needed to dismantle their operation completely. Darlene Hastings, faced with overwhelming evidence and no support from her Russian handlers, turned state's witness. Her testimony revealed how thoroughly the organization had infiltrated legitimate businesses, using compromised spouses as unwitting fronts. Christina left Denver 2 weeks after the incident at Darlene's office. Her departure was quiet, dignified, marked by understanding rather than recrimination. The divorce papers arrived with a simple note. I'm sorry I couldn't handle your truth. The shop remained open, though transformed. Randy stepped into a management role, proving as skilled at running a legitimate business as he had been at covert operations. His father, Frank Roy, visited occasionally, proud of how his son had carried on the family tradition of service. Bobby's security clearance was officially reinstated, allowing her to coordinate with intelligence agencies. Under her supervision, Richard's Reliable Repairs became something new, a safe house and information hub for legitimate operations, while maintaining its cover as a successful auto shop. Their first major test came 3 months later. Intelligence suggested another Wolves operation targeting a mechanic in Seattle, another operative who'd chosen to hide in plain sight. They never learn, Randy commented, reviewing the intel. Still using the same playbook. Why change what works? Bobby replied, updating security protocols. Except now we know their methods. We can stop them before they start. The Seattle operation proved perfect validation of their new model. The target was warned, the Wolves agents identified and neutralized, all without compromising anyone's cover. Hector watched it unfold from his rebuilt workshop, proud of how his protégés had adapted. Sometimes, he reflected, the best way to protect something isn't to hide it, but to surround it with layers of truth and loyalty. They still fixed cars, that part never changed, but now they handled other types of problems too. The kind that required special tools, careful planning, and absolute discretion. After all, every good mechanic knows that maintenance prevents catastrophic failure. And sometimes, maintenance means eliminating threats before they can cause damage. The shop's new sign said it best. Richard's Reliable Repairs. We fix everything. Everything indeed. Epilogue. 5 years later, Richard's Reliable Repairs had grown. What started as a single shop on the outskirts of Denver had expanded into a network of 5 locations across the western United States. Each facility maintained the same cover, high-end auto repair shops catering to both wealthy clients and working-class customers. Each one served as a hub for something far more important. Hector Richards sat in his upgraded command center beneath the original Denver location, monitoring feeds from all 5 shops. The screens showed normal business operations, mechanics working on vehicles, customers discussing repairs, daily routines that looked completely legitimate to any observer. Seattle Hub reporting another intercept. Randy's voice came through the secure channel. Now 31, Frank Roy's son had evolved from a promising operative into a skilled coordinator, managing the network's West Coast operations. Details? Hector asked, pulling up the relevant feeds. Similar pattern to the Budapest operation. Russian-backed syndicate attempting to establish infrastructure through compromised businesses. They're learning from the Wolves' playbook, but not the important lessons. Hector switched to a different screen, showing surveillance photos of suspected syndicate members. Status of the target? Dr. Sarachan, trauma surgeon at Seattle General. They're trying to compromise her through her brother's gambling debts. We've already moved to secure him and trace the money chain. Hector nodded in approval. After dismantling the Crimean Wolves, they discovered dozens of similar operations worldwide, criminal organizations attempting to build legitimate fronts through coerced or compromised professionals. The repair shop network had evolved to identify and prevent these takeovers before they could succeed. A different alert flashed, priority message from Lucia Kinney. Her private intelligence firm had become their primary analysis hub, processing data from multiple sources to identify emerging threats. Got something interesting. Lucia's face appeared on a secure video feed. The years had added subtle lines around her eyes, but her mind remained razor-sharp. Remember our friends from Dubai? Darlene's old contacts? The same. They're active again, but with a twist. Instead of insurance agencies, they're targeting tech startups, using venture capital firms as fronts. Hector pulled up the relevant files. After turning state's witness, Darlene Hastings had provided crucial intelligence about the Wolves' financial network. Her Dubai contacts had gone dark, presumably destroyed with the rest of the organization. Their reemergence suggested something else had survived. Location? San Francisco mainly, but seeing similar patterns in Austin and Boston. They're adapting, using modern technologies to hide traditional tradecraft. Send everything to Randy's team. I want full surveillance on any venture firm showing suspicious investment patterns. Another screen showed Bobby were conducting a briefing at their Las Vegas facility. Her role had expanded far beyond office management. She now trained new operatives in the art of maintaining covers and identifying potential threats. Her military background proved perfect for teaching others how to hide in plain sight. Terminal approach vectors, she explained to a room of attentive students. Anyone trying to compromise a target follows predictable patterns. Learn to spot those patterns. You can prevent the attack before it begins. The Vegas shop had been Randy's idea. Perfect cover for gathering intelligence. No one questioned heavy cash transactions or unusual working hours in a city that never slept. Plus, its central location made it ideal for coordinating operations across the western states. A private alert drew Hector's attention. Motion sensors activated in a supposedly vacant office above their Portland facility. He switched to that feed, tension easing when he recognized the visitor. Frank Roy stood at the window, gazing out at the city. At 70, he moved slower but remained sharp as ever. After the Wolves operation, he'd officially retired from intelligence work. Unofficially, he served as an advisor to their growing network. Thinking about Sarah? Hector asked through the office's secure comm. Frank's smile was sad but proud. Randy's doing good work. She would have approved. She'd be proud of him. The network he's built, the people he's helped. Like father, like son, Frank chuckled. Though he got his mother's brains, thank God. A different kind of alert appeared, one from their civilian cover operations. The Denver shop's customer service line showed an incoming call. Hector recognized the number instantly. Hello, Christina, he answered, voice neutral. Hector. His ex-wife's tone was professional but not cold. I'm in Denver for a real estate conference. Thought you should know. After the divorce, Christina had moved to California, building a new life far from the memories of betrayal and manipulation. They maintained minimal contact, professional courtesy rather than friendship. Appreciated. Any concerns? No active threats. She understood the real question. After her experience with Dominic, Christina had developed a keen eye for manipulation attempts. She occasionally provided warnings about suspicious approaches to her real estate business. Just didn't want to surprise you. Stay safe. He ended the call, noting how time had smoothed the sharp edges of that particular wound. A message from Randy drew his attention back to current operations. Got movement on the Seattle situation. Target's brother made contact with our people. Ready to move when you give the word. Hector checked the broader tactical picture. 5 years of evolution had refined their methods. Instead of waiting to react to threats, they now identified and neutralized them in their earliest stages. Prevention over confrontation, though they maintained the capability for direct action when needed. Coordinate with Lucia's team, he instructed. I want the entire financial network mapped before we move. No loose ends this time. Already on it. Bobby's sending 2 of her graduates to assist. You should see their profiles. Remind me of how Randy started. Hector reviewed the files. Young, skilled, and most importantly, able to blend in perfectly with civilian life. The next generation of operatives, trained to spot and prevent the kind of manipulation that had almost destroyed him. A subtle alert indicated movement in the Denver shop's customer parking lot. Walter Rogers' old parking space, specifically. After his disappearance, they'd maintained it as a memorial of sorts, a reminder of how betrayal could hide behind the most trusted faces. The shop's external cameras showed a familiar car, Ivan Costa's personal vehicle, now driven by his teenage daughter. After her father's death, she'd been adopted by relatives in Colorado. Hector made sure to monitor her discreetly, watching for any sign she discovered her father's true history. So far, she remained innocent of her family's darker legacy. She'd even brought her car to Richard's reliable repairs for regular maintenance, never suspecting the truth about her father's death or her uncle Victor's disappearance. Some debts, Hector murmured, don't pass to the next generation. His phone buzzed. Another message from Lucia. Found something in the venture capital data. Pattern matches Dominic's old methodology. Someone's teaching the new players his techniques. Hector's expression hardened. Even dead, Dominic Weston's poison continued to spread. His methods of manipulation, his techniques for compromising targets through their personal relationships, these had become a playbook for modern criminal enterprises. Flag any operation showing those signatures, he instructed. Priority surveillance on their targets. The command center's main screen filled with data, surveillance feeds, financial transactions, communication intercepts. Each piece represented a potential threat, a possible attempt to rebuild what the wolves had lost. 5 years ago, they destroyed an organization. Now they prevented new ones from rising, identifying and neutralizing threats before they could take root. The shop network had become something unique, part intelligence operation, part preventive security, all hidden behind the perfect cover of honest business. Randy's voice broke into his thoughts. Got confirmation from Seattle. Dr. Chin's brother is secure. Syndicate members identified. Local authorities are standing by. Your call. Hector checked the tactical feeds one final time. The Seattle operation was clean, contained, with no risk of civilian casualties. Perfect conditions for their preferred approach. Execute, he commanded. Standard protocol. Make it look like a routine law enforcement operation. No connections to us. Understood. Teams moving now. Through multiple cameras, Hector watched the operation unfold. Police raids on syndicate safe houses, anonymous tips leading to evidence caches, financial records mysteriously appearing in regulatory agencies' databases. By morning, the entire operation would be dismantled, its members arrested on completely legitimate charges. The victims, Dr. Chen and her brother, would never know how close they'd come to being compromised. Never realized that a network of auto repair shops had saved them from a fate similar to what Christina had faced. Like father, like son indeed, Hector murmured, watching Randy coordinate the final phases. Frank had trained his boy well, teaching him to balance necessity with mercy. to prevent threats without becoming the very thing they fought against. A final message appeared, automated alert from their pattern recognition software. Similar operations identified in multiple cities: Chicago, Miami, Houston. Different players, but the same techniques. The wolves might be gone, but their methods lived on. Time to expand again, Hector decided, pulling up maps of potential new locations. Each shop would need the right mix of cover legitimacy and tactical advantage. Each would require carefully selected staff, both for maintenance operations and intelligence work. The original Denver location hummed with activity above his command center. Regular customers bringing vehicles for repair, never suspecting that their trusted mechanics also repaired something far more valuable: the lives of people targeted by modern predators. Bobby's voice came through the comm. New class graduates next week. 20 operatives ready for field placement. Recommendations? Send their profiles to Randy. Let him assign them based on emerging patterns. Priority to areas showing increased threat activity. The years had taught them valuable lessons. No more lone operators trying to maintain cover alone. No more isolated targets vulnerable to manipulation. Their network provided layers of protection, each shop a fortress hidden behind the facade of honest business. A message from Frank appeared. Sarah would be proud of all of this. Not just Randy, but what you've built. How many people you've helped. Hector allowed himself a moment of reflection. 5 years ago, he'd been a single operative hiding from his past. Now he commanded a network dedicated to preventing others from facing similar threats. The shop that had been his cover had become something far more important: a shield protecting innocent lives from hidden predators. Status report, he commanded, bringing up the main tactical display. All locations. The screen filled with data. Denver, primary hub operational. 3 potential threats identified and contained this month. Cover business showing 15% growth. Seattle, operation successful. Target secured, threat neutralized. 2 new potential cases under investigation. Las Vegas, training facility at capacity. Next class scheduled for deployment in 3 weeks. Portland, surveillance network expanded to cover emerging tech sector. 3 suspicious investment patterns flagged for investigation. San Francisco, new facility construction on schedule. Cover business licenses approved. Operational status expected within 60 days. 5 locations, each serving multiple purposes. Legitimate businesses providing real services while hiding a more important mission. A network of protection built on the lessons learned from past betrayals. The auto shop's front door chime rang. A new customer entered, bringing their vehicle for repair. Above, mechanics went about their normal routines. Below, operatives monitored threats and coordinated responses. Just another day at Richard's Reliable Repairs, where they fixed everything: cars, lives, and the hidden dangers that threatened both. After all, as Hector had learned, the best way to prevent catastrophic failure was constant maintenance. And sometimes, maintenance meant watching for the smallest signs of trouble before they could grow into real threats. The network would continue to grow, adapt, and protect. Because in the end, that's what good mechanics do. They keep things running smoothly, preventing problems before they can cause real damage. And Hector Richards? He remained what he'd always been: a mechanic who fixed things others couldn't even see were broken. Only now, he wasn't working alone. He had a family of sorts, a network of trusted operators who shared his mission. The command center screens showed it all: a legacy built from the ashes of betrayal, a shield forged from the lessons of the past. Each location a fortress, each operator a guardian, all hidden behind the perfect cover of honest work. Above his head, the Denver shop sign still proclaimed their mission: Richard's Reliable Repairs, we fix everything. And they did. One operation at a time, one life at a time, they fixed the broken parts of the world that most people never even knew existed. Just another day at the shop. Just another day making sure the engine of civilization ran smoothly, protected from those who would use its parts for darker purposes. Just another day in the life of a mechanic who fixed more than just cars. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.